So, following on from the vegan chocolate cake that we made earlier, we're going to make some vegan buttercream today so that you can dress it for any celebrations that you might have coming up. We're going to cut it in half, decorate it in the middle and on the top, and we're going to give it a nice little finish with some chocolate ganache. So we've got our icing sugar here, butter here, we're going to put some little bits in for flavour. But before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe, put your notification bell on, and don't forget to like. Now then, let's get cracking. So, here we have our vegan butter. You can use any vegan butter that you like. This happens to be stock. We've got 375 grams in the bowl, and we also have some sifted icing sugar with some cocoa powder. Use the best cocoa powder you can find. It makes such a difference to the flavour. Sprinkling of salt. Salt makes everything go ah! So add your salt, definitely. If you're not used to it, just try a little bit and we'll see where we go. By the way, this is salted, the butter, so you don't need to add too much. So we're going to pop this in the bowl with the icing sugar, with the butter, sorry. Let's get that on. And we have this, which is the safety, so that the icing sugar doesn't go everywhere in the kitchen. You can just wrap your bowl in cling film. You can use a tea towel, paper, whatever you want, just to protect yourself from masses of icing sugar going everywhere. Slow to start, and then we can build up the speed afterwards. Okay, so when we get to this stage, we'll scrape it down, make sure it all gets incorporated. Scrape the bottom of the bowl so that there's no sugar or cocoa powder lurking at the bottom. Scrape it from the top of the K-beater. Of course, you can do this by hand if you like. It's much harder work. But if you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand or with a hand mixer. I'm adding about a teaspoon of vanilla essence, good quality vanilla essence. Give it another whirl on the mixer. Slow it right down, or even switch off if you prefer, and we're going to add a secret ingredient, which is 1 tablespoon of hot water. Turn it up. Give it another scrape down before we finish. As you can see, it's soft, it's light, everything's mixed in perfectly. One more of this on the mixer. And we're good to go. Okay, so mix it right through the bottom so there's no icing sugar or cocoa powder left. Now, as you can see, it's light, it's soft, it's well mixed, no lumps, and we are going to pop that into our piping bag and we're going to decorate our cake. Right, so I've got a glass here to hold my piping bag and nozzle, just because sometimes you need an extra hand. You can use any size tip you like, either a plain tip or a pattern tip like that one. Today we're using the plain one just because I prefer it. Pop that in your glass to give you a steady hand, and we're going to add the buttercream bit by bit. And remember, this is vegan buttercream. Into your piping bag as much as you think you'll need. You can always fill up again later. Bring the sides up and squeeze and push down until you get to the end of the tip. Just there. Now I'm going to pop this in the fridge for a few minutes while I prepare my cake, and especially if you're somewhere warm, you may need to put your buttercream in the fridge before you actually put it in the piping bag, but please try not to get it too solid because you'll have to spend more time having your buttercream out in the warmth just to soften it again. So just put it in the fridge for maybe 5 minutes, and then you'll be able to work quite nicely with it. I have one of these cake wires which I've adjusted to the right height. You may want to use, you may want to use your knife or a knife, yeah. So what I'm going to do is, you can see I'm halfway down the cake. I'm just going to slide it along. You'll have to hold your cake all the way down to the other side. And we have a perfectly flat cake. Now, I'm not very good at doing it with a knife, so I quite like using this. This is our syrup. It's a very simple syrup, 250 grams of water, 250 grams of sugar. You boil them up together. As soon as it hits boil, stop, let it cool, and then I've put it in my bottle. You'll get the recipe for that as well below. So we just soak the cake with the syrup, put that to one side as it soaks down, and with this I'm going to cut the top off just a little bit, just to give it a flatter top for my decoration. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. And I'm actually going to use a knife just because I'm cutting off a very small amount, and let's hope I get it flat. I'm not very good at that. Ta-da! We are going to soak this as well, but we'll soak this once we have it on top of our cake. Now, grab your buttercream that you made earlier and pipe. We're going to start from the outer edge, press and pull off, press and pull off, press and pull off. Try and make them all the same size. Press and pull off, press and pull off, all the way around. I know you're desperate to eat it, but you'll have to wait a little bit longer because we are going to put this into the freezer. Now the middle bit I usually just go round because obviously you can't see the inside, but if you want to practice, this hand is purely holding this bag just to keep it out of the way, and I'm pressing downwards with this hand. Press down, pull off. Just look at how relaxed my fingers are. Press down and pull off. Press down and all the way around. This is purely for practice. This won't be seen, so you can go as many times as you want to, all the way around, just to fill up the gaps. It doesn't matter. And we're going to pop that in the fridge just to let it set a little bit before we put the top on. Right, while we have 5 minutes, because our cake is in the fridge, we're going to start the chocolate ganache for the decoration for the top. So here we have 280 grams of semi-sweet chocolate, which is going to go into our bowl. You may have to use chocolate that you cut, that's fine. Whatever chocolate you can get, as long as it's dark, it's good quality, and it's 280 grams. And then here we have 280 grams, 150 grams of non-dairy milk. You can use coconut milk, soya milk, any dairy-free milk that you like to use. Pour that into your pan. That's going to go on the heat. Just as it starts to bubble, we're going to take it off, pour it onto our chocolate, and then we're going to give it a mix to get a nice, smooth, vegan chocolate ganache. Okay, so you can see hopefully the steam coming off it. It's just started bubbling around the edges. We're going to pour that onto the chocolate. Just let it sit for a second or two and give it a stir. Keep it stirring, stirring, stirring until it's all mixed in. If your milk isn't hot enough, all your chocolate won't melt at once. So what you'll have to do is get your pan, wash it out, put some water in it, let your water simmer and add your bowl to the top of the water and without it touching the water, and it will melt the rest of the chocolate that hasn't melted. But as you can see here, this is all melted. Look at that beautiful, creamy, smooth, vegan chocolate ganache. There we go. All the chocolate has been melted in one go, nice and smooth, no air bubbles, beautiful, and we're going to use this as a garnish for our chocolate cake. Once it's cool, we're going to pop it into our piping bag, which is underneath the glass. We haven't snipped the bottom yet, so there's no hole in there because obviously we want the chocolate not to go all the way through. We'll do that once the chocolate is cool. I think that's enough. Not too much in your piping bag. We're going to snip the ends once we come to use it. Right, our cake is out of the fridge. We are going to add the top layer. Just make sure it's level, which it's not. Give it a spin around, make sure it's in the middle. Don't forget your simple syrup. We need to moisten both layers, both tiers. And we're going to pipe again. And just in case you didn't see me piping before, I'm left-handed, so you may very well do it this way. This I'm just holding to keep it out of the way. Wrap your fingers around the bulb part of your piping bag and squeeze, pull off. Squeeze, pull off. Make sure you make contact with the cake, with the buttercream. 1, 2, 3, 4, pull off. Make contact, squeeze, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull off. And try and make them all the same because this is going to be your top tier, so it needs to look very pretty indeed. If you don't want to use your turntable, that's not a problem. Just put it straight onto your table. I'm just used to using the turntable, so squeeze and pull off, squeeze and pull off. Now this time we are going to see the top of the cake, so we need to make sure we make a nice pattern in the middle. You can do smaller ones if you so choose. 1, 2, 3 to finish. And now just check that it's centered again, which it is. They look like little dancing fingers. I love it. Cut the tip off your piping bag with your chocolate ganache, and you can practice on the table if you like. Again, I'm holding it exactly the same as I held it before. Squeeze, make sure there's no air bubbles in there, and we're just going to do this. Actually, my hole's a little bit big, but never mind. 1, 2, 3, all the way across the cake, just to make it look pretty. And there you have a beautifully finished vegan chocolate cake, perfect for any celebration, any birthday. Hope you enjoyed it. When I cut the top of the cake off, I put them in a bowl and I crumbled them up to make crumbs. And what we're going to do with these actually is that we're not going to waste it. I'm going to add some buttercream to the mix, and then we're going to mix that together to make a nice smooth dough, if you like. The buttercream and the cake crumbs will be blended together, and we're going to roll them into truffles and coat them in the chocolate ganache. So once you've rolled them into balls, put them in the fridge to set for 5-10 minutes, bring them out. You might want to put some gloves on, just roll them in the chocolate ganache, and you can either put them in little papers like this or just have them on their own, and they're great for a gift for a friend or for yourself for afternoon tea. So nothing is wasted.